Zanzakandave. I hope everyone has been enjoying their days and into a wonderful summer. We at the TIPO thought it would be a great idea to update you all in some of the activities we've been undertaking since the last time we've been online. We just wanted to show you a special presentation of the latest activities, so I hope you all enjoy it. So, on April 26th, Eastern Shoshone Tippo and other tribal partners attended the Teller Institute Tribal Consultation in Grand Junction, Colorado. The Grand Junction Indian Boarding School, later called the Teller Institute, was named after U.S. Senator Henry Teller of Colorado, who was instrumental in passing legislation for the creation of the federal boarding school in 1886, with the first students arriving in 1887. It followed the philosophy of Colonel Richard Henry Pratt, the longtime superintendent of the Carlisle Indian Industrial School at Carlisle, Pennsylvania. In Colorado, there are at least 4 Native American boarding schools. Children at these boarding schools were subjected to the loss of their cultural identities, physical and sexual abuse, forced labor, diseases, suffering from their confinement. Many children disappeared or lost their lives at these schools, and their bodies remain today in unmarked graves on the school grounds. In the case of Teller, there are 21 known Native students that lost their lives at the Institute. One student, a Shoshone tribal member, unfortunately lost his life there as well. What is unique about this case is that there's no documentation regarding the location of the Teller graveyard. Any form of documentation were reportedly destroyed in a fire in New York, and other archival research is underway trying to find any remains that are left that can map out any possible location is underway right now. The institute was in operation from 1887 until 1911 when the school abruptly closed. In 1915, the state of Colorado General Assembly gave permission for the previous Teller Institute land and buildings to be utilized as a mental health institution. Many of the former institute buildings were removed in the 50s through the 70s, leaving only one building intact. The state of Colorado has passed legislation and bills to allow the authority to sell or transfer the land. A tribal task force was developed to address the needs for our deceased tribal members. During our meeting, we were given presentations from various scientific teams regarding the proposed groundwork. Technologies such as LIDAR, ground penetrating radar, and other non disturbing work were also brought up to locate the possible location of the graveyard. It is in our great and best interest that we find this graveyard and bring home our young native ancestor to put him back with his family where he belongs. So we'll certainly keep you posted on this endeavor. During the summer of 2018, the Eastern Shoshone Tipo and the Shoshone Bannock Heritage Tribal Office were contacted regarding a NAGPRA case involving the Mummy Cave ancestor. The remains and cultural materials were part of the excavations initiated by Mr. Robert Edgar from 1963 through 1965. The human burial was unearthed during a cleanup that was caused from vandalism, which is called Cultural Layer 36. Soon after removal, the remains were put on display in the Whitney Gallery of Western Art in Cody, Wyoming. Recommendations for study were initiated, and the ancestor was moved to the Buffalo Bill Center of the West in Cody in the 1960s, where the remains are still housed to this day. Mummy Cave is a rock shelter and archaeological site in Park County, Wyoming, near the eastern entrance to Yellowstone National Park. The Eastern Shoshone Tippo conducted field visits to the site and spent days at the Buffalo Bill Center of the West identifying funerary items relating to the ancestor. In all, over 400 items were evaluated and 334 were identified as being funerary objects. We are happy to announce that the Notice of Inventory Completion in the Federal Register has been submitted, and we will plan on the reinterment hopefully this fall. During our last update, I mentioned the work we have been doing with the University of Denver regarding the repatriation of four ancestors that were removed from the Dinwiddie and Big Sandy areas in the 1930s. Those remains were transferred to the custody of the Eastern Shoshone Tippo in 2019, where they were respectfully put back into Mother Earth for their final journey. During those consultations, over 400 items were evaluated, and 395 were identified as being funerary and sacred items. The areas that these requested items were removed were from the Dinwiddie Lakes, Black Mountain, Red Creek, Little Red Creek. Other areas in the state of Wyoming include Buffalo Creek, Bighorn Mountain, and Flattop Mountain. Since many of the cultural items were removed from reservation lands, the Eastern Shoshone Tipple has put in an agro claim to Dr. B.J. Howerton, head curator chief and cultural resources manager for the BIA OTS in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Follow up phone calls with Dr. Howerton were very positive, and we've gotten approval from their end. The other claim is with the University of Denver's NACPRA coordinator, and we are in the final stages of getting the notice of intent submitted for the repatriation of 395 cultural items. Uh, During our American Indian Day observation, the TIPO was successful in replanting 20 chokecherries, 20 black currants, 20 red willows, and 15 red cedar trees around the Fort Washakie community in an effort to create bioregions around the reservation. This is in collaboration with Wind River Grow Your Own 307 and other partnering organizations, and schools are benefiting. So we had a really great time, and planting a lot of these traditional and spiritual plants, and we felt very honored to be part of this program. And to mention, Wind River Grow Your Own 307 is a 501c3 nonprofit organization in Riverton, Wyoming, who provides gardening supplies and education teaching about medicinal, traditional native plants and medicines to all communities on and near the Wind River Reservation. Any questions can be addressed to Dara Goodvoice Elk at 307 240 4257. In May, the TIPO partnered up with the Bridger Teton Forest Service for their yearly Blackrock Field Camp. This camp was created for the 4th and 5th graders from Fremont County schools such as Fort Washakie, Wyoming Indian, St. Stephen's, and Arapahoe. Events range from ranger duties and demonstrations, bear mace spraying, and culture camps. The TIPO was involved with the Shoshone camp, where we spoke of stone tools that the ancient tribes utilized, respect of sacred sites, elder storytelling, and teepee setup. Students had a lot of fun during these events, and I knew they had, a lot of stories to take back to their parents. COVID has unfortunately prevented this event for the last 2 years, so we were very excited to be part of the events once again. In September of 2020, paleontological scientist Dr. David Lovelace for the University of Wisconsin reached out to our office regarding his field work of the Chugwater Formation near Du Bois on BLM land. During their work, they discovered fossilized remains of a burrowing amphibian about the size of a salamander. It appears that the little amphibians would dig a burrow and bury itself during the dry time of year, and when the seasonal rains came back, it would re-emerge and go about its life cycle. Currently, they are in the process of describing the dinosaur for publication. From my understanding, they are very rare to find and they are also not named. Dr. Lovelace requested assistance from the office on getting an amphibian named utilizing the Shoshone language. I thought it would be a good idea to include, the Fort Washakie School. So on May 24th, we accompanied the school to the Dubois site where we met Dr. Lovelace, as well as his crew, and some of the traditional elders were also present. Students got to see the areas that the amphibian were discovered and got to be part of multiple interviews for a future documentary that will be coming up soon. Some of these areas, still contain fossilized remains, and even on our brief hike, we stumbled upon, actual skulls of these amphibians. Last time I spoke with the school, there were many submittals for a possible name, and I'm excited to see what they come up with because, they will be making history and for the future of this unnamed amphibian. And, they're looking at 220 to 230 million year old fossilized remains. So it's going to be very exciting for these kids. Um, we know that the traditional and cultural importance of our ancestral homelands, areas like the Teton and the greater Yellowstone regions, whether it be in the form of hunting, fishing, gathering, or prayer. The TIPO has been working with the National Elk Refuge in Jackson and the Gardner Ranger District in Montana in getting traditional ceremonial bison hunts established for our tribal members. We are getting promising feedback, and some details need to be worked out before finalization. So we'll keep you certainly posted on that aspect as soon as we get final approval, so we can have traditional cultural bison hunts for our tribal members. We're also working on offensive name changes. According to a database in the U.S. GS, there are over 43 official federal place names in Wyoming containing the word squaw. So we are, under the initiative of, providing more beneficial names that we can all agree upon. So we have our work cut out for us. So you know, just one place with the official name change was ever occurred was in 1981, and that was in Yellowstone National Park when Squaw Lake became Indian Pond. So that's pretty much what we have until our next update, and I hope to provide you with a lot more activities that we are doing, which is important for not only our tribe but also for the preservation of our traditional cultural properties. I wish to thank everyone for your time, and if, of course, you have any questions, feel free to contact myself at the office at 335-2081. Hui, everyone. Thank you.